Okay, what's going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, you have to introduce the main man.
Yeah, we're here with another Clunt Harp Heavy here. Iain Ward is here, and he's joining us for this podcast. His full story will go out on Wednesday. Is that correct, Basmo?
Yeah.
But he loves fighting almost as much as we do, so we said we'd let him on for the fighting portion. It's not something we normally do, Iain, so I hope you feel privileged.
Very much so. White privilege. The whole works.
Yeah, love it. Basmo, kick us off there. What's going down on today's show?
Okay, on today's show, we will be going over all the action from UFC 254. Khabib Nurmagomedov leaving and retiring, undefeated 29-0 record. And then we'll be looking at this weekend's UFC Halloween, we'll call it. Uriah Hall's taking on Anderson Silva, who's also meant to retire. We will be looking at Bellator that's out on Thursday. And there is boxing on the weekend as well, as Alexander Usyk takes on Derek Chisora. It's going to be a heavyweight clash. Lads, there's loads of action. We were originally going to go over Iain's story, but it was actually so touching and deep that it deserves its own show. So we'll have that out later on the week, and Iain's going to make sure he's going to comment in the comment section, and we're going to pin that. So if you want to check out Iain's channel, definitely do, because there's some big things coming from Iain. But lads, let's start at the very, very, very top. Khabib Nurmagomedov defeated Justin Gaethje over the weekend by submission in the second round. Iain, we should start off with yourself. Going into this fight, Khabib was obviously 28-0. What did you expect was going to go down? And
exactly what happened.
Exactly what happened, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like he has learned how to, like, a special move that no one else has been able to counter. It's like, who's the first guy to one of the Gracies when they first started the UFC? Renzo Gracie, yeah. And it was just like, he did something that was completely game-changing to everybody else. It was like, oh, okay, so being a striker is just not, like, exclusively being a striker is not an option anymore because this thing exists. It's like Khabib has done that again, where it's just like a certain level of wrestling, if you have that, even though loads of lads go in as, like, you know, prime wrestlers or prime BJJ specialists, but, like, his takedown is just unstoppable. It's relentless.
Yeah.
I actually think that was Hoist, not Enzo. But yeah, same point.
Hoist Gracie.
I do want to interrupt. I was like, just go with it, lads. Just go with it. But people know anyway. Ross, actually tell Iain about how Hoist Gracie shakes people's hands, will it?
Yeah, so we've met Hoist Gracie like 3 or 4 times, which is such a random person we've met so many times. But when Hoist Gracie shakes your hand, you know the way, like, I'm going to try and do a 2-person handshake for those watching it on video, and you sort of shake your hands like that. But he grabs you by your wrist. He's always looking for wrist control, that fella. So he's a very, very funny man.
So
he's also
like the Roman handshake, the forearm.
Yeah, he grabs the forearm straight away. No messing with him.
Yeah,
I went to give him a hug one time. He tried to pull guard on me. I was like, Jesus, man, no messing. No messing. But, that main event was so interesting. One thing that I really thought about is, you know, for the first 2 minutes, no one did anything. That built the tension so much. I was like, oh my God. I started to get nervous then, even though I didn't actually care who won. And then I thought Gaethje did really well on the feet to start off. I thought his leg kicks were on point. He landed a few decent shots on Khabib to the head as well. Khabib landed a bit as well, but nothing never seemed to really faze Gaethje. The one thing I always think about Gaethje is he looks knackered after the first minute, but he sort of goes at that knackered-y looking pace for the full 25 minutes if he has to. He always looks like he's about to blow his load. But I couldn't believe. But once Khabib got Gaethje down for the final 40 seconds of the first round, I was like, that's not really a big deal. Like, he's definitely not going to finish him in that time. But then once Khabib got him down in sort of the first 40 seconds of the second round, it was like Justin Gaethje had never trained on the ground before whatsoever. He was straight into full mount and just put that triangle in. A lot of people were talking about the ref and how he didn't stop it. But it's very rare you actually see someone like tap on someone's face or their head. Therefore, I think the ref actually thought Gaethje was trying to punch him, but he wasn't. He was tapping out straight away. And then the lights went out in Georgia. Khabib Nurmagomedov rides off in the sunset, 29-0, undisputed and undefeated. You're a lightweight champion. I don't know if we'll ever see someone who's transcended into the superstardom Khabib has. I know a lot of it's down to, his fight with Conor McGregor, but, you had the likes of Paul Pogba sharing Khabib on their story and stuff afterwards.
Ronaldo?
It was Ronaldo as well. It was like pretty big moment, really, in the world of sport. I don't know. I thought it was quite emotional as well. Obviously, the loss of his dad severely impacted him, and said he never wants to make that walk again without his dad. There's also rumours of a broken foot 3 weeks out from the fight, which probably led to him struggling to make weight. My thought just said he didn't make weight. It was just a whirlwind of a couple of hours leading into the fight, and then the fight itself. It was just typical Khabib fashion. Took Gaethje down, and I describe it as submerging someone underwater who doesn't know how to swim. They're eventually just going to drown, and everyone seems to drown in Khabib's ground game.
It was there after the win. I know we were watching it together, but it wasn't even it was such a strange thing, because usually we're on such a high after a main event, and the way he dropped to his knees and started crying, it was this. You swear Khabib didn't even know how to cry, and then when he was down on the ground crying, it was just such a touching moment for such a brutal sport.
It really, really was.
Yeah.
And then Justin Gaethje then went over and sort of, gave him a hug, and it was just a beautiful moment of two absolute world-class competitors.
He's a gentleman with that one as well.
Yeah, I don't think people expect any less of Gaethje either. That just seems to be the type of character Justin Gaethje is. But the main talking point of Khabib winning and retiring is, what is his legacy in MMA? Is he the greatest to ever do it? He wanted the pound for pound #1 spot before he left. What's your guys' thought on whether he is the pound for pound #1 fighter at the moment, and is he the greatest of all time? Ian, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think he would have probably made it had he stuck in, but I don't think he got that title, just because how long has Jon Jones been defending his title? So he's literally fighting the best people who are possibly available for the fights. But Khabib, he went there and he took down so many huge names. But even though it's so credible for what his achievements were, it's yeah, but you got to do it a couple more years, man. You got to do it to earn that unquestionable, you are the pound for pound best. You have to wait it out a little more, because Jon Jones has taken down so many people who were hopefully going to beat him. This guy has a chance. How is Jon Jones going to do it? He had to change some of his tactics, and that's appealing to people as Muhammad Ali. He starts off as a guy who's just able to avoid all the punches so fast, and then later on he just became a guy who could just take hits like no one's business. Brian O'Driscoll started off with a guy who's just unbelievable at speed. He's just able to skim past people, but then later on he just became a defensive genius, and that's something that Khabib hasn't done. It's he's a master of that takedown game, and it's all he's ever needed. But it's normally you've got to see that someone can sort of expand to any sort of realm and take down any sort of opponent, fight any sort of adversity, and just get over it. And it's not I want to try and detract from his ability to do that, but there's something about having that title of pound for pound greatest that you need to be flawless in your push for that title.
Right, what's your thought on it?
You see, I saw so many people being obviously on our post we put out, so many people were so and so's GOAT, so and so's the GOAT, or else you can't really compare them. I think it is really, really hard to compare them. First of all, through different times people fought, although Jon Jones is still fighting and Georges St. Pierre was toying with potentially coming back and fighting Khabib, but now Khabib's retired. But if we were to name the top 5, or even we can go to the top 3, would you agree that it's top 3 would be Khabib? Oh, you see, you have Mighty Mouse Johnson as well. Ross, you're obviously you give us your top 5 who you think is the GOAT, and then we'll discuss who do we think is the GOAT.
Well, for me, I really thought about it when when Khabib won and retired. You just think about it. So it was what you see latest is the best. You know what I mean? Number 1, I would say Khabib is the current pound for pound king. He is the best fighter on the planet right now. If you take John Jones right now, his abilities, and you take Khabib's abilities right now, Khabib is the best pound for pound for me. Okay, but if you turn GOAT status, great of all time, entire body of work, Khabib is only doing what John Jones did at the start of his career now. John Jones was Shogun, Machida, Rashad Evans, Quinton Rampage Jackson run now. Khabib is only doing that run now, and he's retired. John Jones did that run and then beat the next wave of guys. So John Jones, for me, is by far and large the GOAT. He also beat Alexander Gustafsson twice, and he beat DC twice as well, who are also two of the best light heavyweights. And DC is one of the best heavyweights to ever do it. So for me, John Jones is undoubtedly the best fighter to ever step foot in the cage. People can say drug test this, drug test that, whatever. But when all is said and done and people have walked out, he has won 15 world title fights. Khabib has won 4. Like, there's no comparing the two when you put it that way. In terms of capabilities in the octagon, it's different. But in terms of actual achievements, there is absolutely no difference or no comparing the two. The other two who used to be sort of in line were GSP and Anderson Silva. They were always there. Anderson Silva definitely has demolished his sort of stigma by keep on going and fighting all these guys way past his prime and racking up a load of belts. GSP, for me, is the ultimate mixed martial artist. He can mix it up on the feet. He's relentless with the takedown also, and he'd be number 2 for me. I'd put Anderson Silva in at 3, probably Khabib at 4, and then Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, just because with Mighty Mouse, he was absolutely so brilliant. He had so many title defenses in a row, but at the end of the day, he was beaten by Cejudo, and he never came back for that rematch. He chose to go fight elsewhere. If he came back and won the belt back off Cejudo, I think people would hold him in a lot higher regard.
Although technically they're 1-1 now.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. But that's why a trilogy was set up, and that's where look at Stipe and DC. If they never fought a third time, people would always be like, who was actually the better?
Yeah, Ian, a lot of people have they it depends what way people do
Stipe as well. Actually, Basmo, Stipe never gets his due.
Yeah, but
he's not one of the greatest of all time.
He 2-1 against DC, and DC would be on some people's list because he held both divisions. You know what I mean?
So,
but a lot of people would have they'd be like, right, I like John Jones because of this, or people say Conor McGregor because he was the first ever champ. It's all about taste, sort of. But Ian, if you're looking at it now, who would you say is the best ever?
Oh, well, definitely Conor. I love the man. He's great and all, but just because you catch 2 belts first and no one else was really trying for that, I think it's a ridiculous opinion to jump in and be like, yes, I'm the first person to be 55 and then the 145 at the same time. It's if someone was out to do that, they could probably do that. Lads change weight all the time. I'm not trying to detract from the fact that he is unbelievable at his striking game, but in terms of the greatest that ever did the thing, there's too many lads out there that have already been mentioned. It's been a while since I've seen Demetrius, but good God, I started to sort of reeling back some of his fights. I can't remember who he's fighting, but you remember when he got that armbar
Ray Borg
mid-air, and it's the lads that are larger in size, they just don't have, as Joe Rogan said, they just don't have gravity mucking around with them those lads have. But still, the skill involved to be able to do that it's just freakish. And Henry Cejudo, I know you can't really call him a GOAT, but to be able to take down Demetrius Johnson and some of his title defenses, it's difficult to like the guy because he is the king of cringe. Some of the things he puts out, it's just when he's putting his belts to bed. It's I know he's kind of doing that with tongue in cheek at this stage. Yeah, I think he is slightly taking the piss, but then I also think that it's kind of who's the guy who made that film, The Room?
Oh, I know the fella you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
It's Wiseau. Tommy Wiseau, that's it, yeah. So I feel he's a bit like him, where it's everyone started going, oh, this guy is so cringy, and then he just kind of went, yes, it was my intention. I'm the king of cringe. He just sort of went with that rather than yes, I'm going to be the cringiest guy on in the UFC scene and sort of make my knowledge, my legacy or whatever.
Yeah, well, DC always said Henry Cejudo was like super cringy, even back in like the Olympic days, and like that's who he is. Like that's sort of who he is, except like he's embraced this character. You know, he's shown up on wrestling shows like Vitor Belfort as like some sort of thug and stuff. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely just a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, Colby Covington like is freak there, wishing he could do all that stuff.
Yeah,
but a lot of people do get carried away with like what happens right now. You know what I mean? It's like he's the best right now, so therefore he's the best ever. Because like if you're looking through waves of people like jumping on the world of mixed martial arts, like myself and Ross, like we've noticed over the last few years, like more and more people are putting out polls saying who's going to win, and you never even knew they watched the sport a couple of years ago. So like people that would have jumped on it now would be like, obviously Khabib's the best, 29-0. He beat Conor McGregor, you know what I mean? But then like if you look back at when George St. Pierre was dominating, and even John Jones right now, but
some people will also get name recognition mistaken for capabilities and talent. You know what I mean? If you look at someone like BJ Penn, you look at his record, you go, Jesus, that's like a phone book, that yoke. You know what I mean? But if you look at people BJ Penn's actually beating, you're like, fucking hell, that's fairly impressive. So again, it's not always all about the numbers. Robbie Lawler as well, like I think he's racked over 10 or 11 losses. But, you know, he held the gold in the end. And then even look at Michael Bisping, who, well, I think he's about 30-7. But he eventually got to the gold. You know what I mean? So I think people, from a casual standpoint, will look at someone's record and go, they're not that good. But when you get to a certain stage in your career, all you're doing is fighting the best boys over and over and over again.
Yeah, and like who knows how far Israel Adesanya's reputation could go as well.
He could be a future greatest.
Yeah, definitely. He looks like an absolute phenom. Yeah, definitely. And who knows? He might end up fighting John Jones. If John Jones beat Adesanya, that would definitely be another notch on John Jones' belt. But if Adesanya can beat John Jones, well then like that's a serious call for him to go down as one of the greatest of all time. The first person to be John Jones, that would be like such a stamp to put on your career.
Man, it's the second time, man. Get it right, will you?
Oh, sorry, Matt Hamill. I forgot how well he did by headbutting John Jones' elbows.
There we go, man. A win's a win, you know. Matt Hamill, Ultimate Fighter, a GOAT.
I'm sure
Ultimate
you
Fighter
wouldn't say a win is a win when you take it like that.
Well, like Ian, who be like your favorite fighter ever?
Oh, favorite now. Oh, I think weirdly enough, one of my favorite fighters out there was Brian Ortega, because like just the way he would fight people was just so forward stepping, and then just afterwards him being such a happy guy. Like you never know, like he's a Yeah, Brian Ortega, I'd say, would be easily one of my favorites, just because he's such an out there and creative fighter. Like his match with Max Holloway, who would also be in the same sort of category as that. Yeah. Those are, every so often there are fights where I don't know who I want to win, and that would be one of the biggest ones, because they're just so loose and so open, and like they could take it to the ground, they could take it there, you could be striking in some capacity, it could be like leg kicks, all sorts of things, and you never know what the result is going to be. And like that's one of the reasons why GSP is such regarded as one of the biggest GOATs out there, is because he does the exact same sort of thing. You could finish someone in any way imaginable and it would not be a surprise. He could win on points, he could win by submission, he could win by knockout. So it's completely open like that.
Ross, who's your favorite? So Ian, your favorite is Brian Ortega, and then who do you think the GOAT is?
The GOAT, I would say, for a similar sort of reason as Ross found it, I think it is John Jones, because it's just like the record for how many people he's beaten that are top level. It's just so long. It's been going on for so long that it's almost people forget why he's considered the greatest of all time. And it's like, he's never really dropped out of the game that long either. It's just constantly coming in, knocking someone else out, moving on to the next thing. And while he's not in his prime, he still is like taking down anyone who comes in and tries to, throw hands with him.
Exactly. Ross, who's your favorite ever fighter?
My favorite fighter is George St. Pierre. Thank God we got to see him at UFC 217. win the middleweight title, to become champ status. We were there, you know. It was an absolute great time. He is my favorite ever fighter. And then in terms of GOAT, like I think I outlined it earlier, John Jones.
Yeah.
What about you, Bosmo? Someone better ask you.
I can't believe Ian did that. I actually like this is gonna sound bad, right? But I know in hindsight, TJ Dillashaw was had a few picograms in the body, but when he fought, it was just I knew there was like I was like, he's on a different level. Now we found out he was on a different level because of what he was taking, but when watching him fight, I was like, oh my god, this is unreal.
And also you went to his after party at UFC 217, man.
Yeah.
First person, you welcomed me into the party, man.
I know, that's actually, we were at his after party after he beat Cody Garbrandt. That was actually hilarious. But does that count? Can I count that? I don't want to be like he's my favorite ever.
Who's your favorite right now that you can think of?
Yeah, just the way he fought. Also, I'm a big fan of Max Holloway as well. Ross's best mate. But like, you know what? Like, I think I have to agree with both. Just giving it to the pound for pound is John Jones. Just what he's done. I know the picogram stuff as well, and like I'd love to be able to give it to Khabib, or I'd love to be able to give it to George St. Pierre. But just the absolute murderers that John Jones has taken down and made look very amateurish is something that can't be denied. I think what he does outside of the octagon is going against him, but
yeah,
you'd almost hope he was like more like Khabib. But we're lucky. We're lucky.
No,
to
it makes him more impressive.
Yeah,
he's going off to drinking alcohol and doing cocaine binges, and then still coming and kicking your ass like with a hangover. So, but I think the next question is, Baz, where does the lightweight division go from here? There's 5 prime contenders ready for a title shot. You have obviously Conor versus Poirier. Looks like it's going to happen at UFC 257 in January. Justin Gaethje was the interim title holder going into that fight. Tony Ferguson's always thereabouts. And then Michael Chandler, UFC's newest signing, is there as well, who got a lovely little promo on the pay-per-view. So those 5 look like they are all gunning to be holding the UFC lightweight title.
They are.
You look like you have a bit of smirk there. You look like you have a bit of a conclusion of where this will go. So what's your take on it?
Who, me? Oh,
no, the other Ian.
Well, for a second there, the Zoom thing sort of went like, so I didn't actually know who you were saying. So I was like, was I smirking? Think about it. I really don't know. Like, you know, the thing is that they're so open that anyone could take on anyone. Like Conor, who knows what kind of condition he's in at the moment. Like his last fight against Cowboy was amazing, but at the same time, it's sort of like, has he been on like insane sessions? It's like, how much has he been obeying COVID rules? Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. Like, you know, he's a wild card. So, and the thing is, like, if he then ends up being like the champion again, and like, how many times is he going to retire when someone tries to challenge him for that? Is like Poirier just gonna like? I think if Poirier gets the win, I reckon he will actually retire forever for once. Like, you know, he's like Khabib. Unfortunately, he's a man of his word. I cannot see him returning. It's very sad. I would love to have seen him keep going, if only to see him dethroned it away. Because like, who could do it? It's like he's a master class. But like, you know, if Conor says he's retired, it's like, you know, it's like who keeps like
it's like an alcoholic saying they're not going to the pub this weekend.
Or
just a normal Irish man saying, I'm only going for 2. I'm only going for 2.
The dreaded 2.
Yeah, or the Sunday hangover when like, I'm never drinking again. It's like Friday night. It's like, where are you, man?
Yeah, I think that's the teenage thing. I'm never drinking again, man. This is so bad. And then as you get older and the hangovers get worse, it's just like, look, I'm not going to say that because I know it's not going to happen again.
Yeah,
I might session less.
But do you think UFC 257, UFC is going to put the belt on the line, Conor versus Poirier?
100%. I think it makes most sense, most money. Dana White is like, yes, there's a belt.
Well, I think so. It is already a pay-per-view. And then if you look at actually terms of like caliber, Poirier went to beat Hooker. He's also beaten Gaethje as well. So that almost like rules Gaethje out of the title fight. And then, he's already matched up against Conor. Conor, former UFC lightweight champion. He also won his last fight against Cowboy. I know it was at 170, but like both those guys can make 155. Like Ferguson lost to Gaethje. Yeah. And then Michael Chandler, like, I don't think as a Bellator fighter they're going to be straight in for the UFC title shot. I think they might actually try and put Tony Ferguson on the under as the co-main event for that with Michael Chandler. And then, if an injury happens to either or, Tony Ferguson will step in as a lightweight contender. I think that's the way to do it.
There's also the element that Conor is apparently the only person to ever beat Khabib in a round.
That is true. That's true.
It's insane to think that, and he still doesn't qualify as the GOAT in a lot of people's eyes. He's lost one round, not a fight, a round.
Yeah, so
never even cut.
Probably not. No.
What about?
They showed Khabib's faces after like his last 8 opponents. The way they used to show Tony Ferguson's opponents' faces, and they showed Khabib's face after the last 8 fights, and it looked like it was before rather than after. But
Ross, what sort of spin are the UFC going to put on this Conor McGregor against Poirier fight, knowing that both guys have lost Khabib? This is for the vacant title. Like it's going to be for the vacant title. I think most of the time when we predict stuff like this, we tend to be close enough. Like what spin is the UFC going to put on it?
Return of Mac. Conor McGregor, the biggest UFC superstar of all time, is back and he's fighting for the belt. I think very little will be said at Khabib, and not in a disregard to Khabib, but anything said about Khabib between those two puts a negative shine on them. So it might even go back to play up their build-up of UFC 178 as well, because this is a rematch as well. Mystic Mac was born at UFC 178.
Was he, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Before we move on, lads, who wins between Khabib and George St. Pierre? Ross, you go first.
Well, it is a dream fight that will never probably happen. Look, if this happened 2 years ago, I'd have my money on GSP. But as time goes on, Father Time will catch up with GSP. GSP will probably be 40 if this fight was to happen. And Khabib's only 32. So I would have to say Khabib.
The only Iain in the room.
I would be, even if they were at the same age, I would still go with Khabib. I think he would actually be able to get the win. I think he would. Because it's like, you've never seen him, like, not even on the pressure. Like, he's even like Gaethje in round 1. He's there clipping at his legs and he's, getting good strikes in there. And, he's still just the Terminator walking towards him. And even the takedown that he got in round 2, it was after Gaethje nailed him with a really good leg shot. And somehow he did this, like, monkey maneuver where he got around his back. Like, he's
but George St. Pierre said he is not impressed with his performance.
Intoxicated. But, lads... Lads, I think this could actually happen. Like I know Khabib, you can tell he's a man of his word. I'm not against that at all. But
I think he just needs Mad's permission, doesn't he?
I think
Mad needs to be like, go on.
It's the 29. It's the 29-0. It's like here, like after the new year comes, when things sort of settle down. When he joins people, goes, he corners people. He'd be like, he might get the taste for it again. He's like, 30 would be perfect against George St. Pierre to settle this once and for all, because people are going to be going on who's better, Khabib, George St. Pierre. I think like if they had that would just be unreal. Like the fight fans want it, but who really knows? They're
never going to be able to name him as the greatest of all time, because then he'll just be like, okay, cool, definitely going to retire now. It gives him a reason not to. They have to say, no, he's not.
If George St. Pierre comes back and then he beats Khabib, he moves into my number 1 spot for the GOAT.
That's the thing.
Same.
Yeah.
It's proven it.
George
comes back like 2 years off, comes back with the middleweight title, 2 years off again, comes back and beats Khabib. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Stop the lights. But in my opinion, that would mean like he'd be like a 3-weight world class champion as well. Especially if CSP went down to 155 and did it.
Yeah.
George said after on Ariel's show that he would, if Khabib had called him out there, he would have agreed to it. So like, who knows? Watch this space. But also in the co-main event, Rob Whitaker got the decision against Jared Kearney. I felt like this was only really gone one way, lads.
Yeah, you could see Robert Whitaker was a step of class above Jared Cannonier, just in terms of skill level. Cannonier always had the dynamite to be able to get it done, but Robert Whitaker put on an absolutely beautiful performance, and he really just used the jab to set up this victory. And he hit in behind that jab perfectly. And he did enough for me to be like, I think he deserves another title shot. Whether UFC will go that direction with Adesanya, I don't know. But in my opinion, he's the clear number one contender at middleweight.
I'd agree.
Is that what you'd like to see next, Ian? Adesanya against Whitaker?
In a way, I would, but like on the other way, it's like because the two fighters are so active. It's like this happened yesterday. But like that's one of the things that's amazing
right.
about Adesanya. He's the champ, and he's like, give me a fight. He waits no time at all. It's not like he wants to stand on his laurels. I think he wants to do the same thing as Khabib, where he's like, he wants to be known as the greatest of all time. He recognizes that in order to do that, he needs to be just killing people as often as possible and being as class as a striker as he is. If he comes back and he's, not injured, he'll be just like, sign me back up. Roderick Whitaker, I don't know if he wants to be the greatest of all time, but he certainly wants to have the title as much as possible. So, like, the two of them are very similar in that they're in the way they're goaled out to each other. So, I think they'll take it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's just been enough time for Robert Whitaker to make the adjustments to actually be better than he was this time to get the job done against Adesanya. That's my only fear for our mate, Robert Whitaker Basmo.
I have a feeling Adesanya is going to find Jan Blachowicz to become the champ.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. The light heavyweight division could do with a bit of Adesanya star power.
Yeah, and then Whitaker could fight someone else for the actual vacant title then. Well, Ross, here, we have to give a few honourable mentions for the weekend. I'll start off with one. Alexander Volkov defeating Walt Harris.
Yeah, it was a very impressive victory for him. And then I'm going to give a shout out to Lauren Murphy. A few people give out to her saying she cut a very cringy promo after the fight. But it's one of those things where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If she's just sat there and go, I'll fight whoever the UFC wants to give me next. No, she went out there, dominant victory, and she called her shot. So she could be next in line to fight Shevchenko.
Ian, any honourable mentions from the weekend?
I mean, it's not so super obvious. I mean, I am picking the main man, but like, I still think how he got that takedown from being hit, it's like the ultimate counter possible. I think it's got to go to Khabib for what he did, and then also just to hold his emotional status together, and then you can see how much it flushed out of him afterwards. Like, he was clearly carrying a lot of baggage with him.
Yeah. We have to give a shout out as well to our good mate Sam Alvey getting that monkey off his back and getting out of the losing column into the draw column. So, like, that's somewhere to build upon.
Yeah. Not many people get in the draw column after coming on the Energized show. Just Sam Alvey.
That is just Sam Alvey. But lads, this Saturday it is Halloween. Ross, are you dressing up for Halloween? Are you dressing up Theo or anything?
Yeah, Theo's going to dress up as a pirate. He likes a pirate cartoon, or he likes a pirate TV show, so that's what he's going to do. So he's only 1.5, in just in case you're like, what age is your kid? 1.5. So he's a horror matey.
Ian, are you going to dress?
Absolutely. I have more spending money that is gone on like outfits for like various YouTube things. Like, I will drop it. That had to be able to have the opportunity. It's awful that all my mates that live in London, none of them like dressing up. Every birthday I have, I tried to find an easy way for them to do it without having to spend money. Like, I think for my 30th, it was like, all right, it's opposite gender. So you just find someone who's the same size as you, and you wear her dress and she wears your suit. And still nobody did it. Like, it's so hard to get it out of them. And then I think also on the principle of the matter, you don't really realize it until you go over to the UK, but they do not celebrate Halloween big at all. So yeah. I've got to do it for the inventors, the original inventors of Halloween, and like, go out to the Celtic blood out there.
Yeah, and if that doesn't go well, like, you can always dress up as Chuck Liddell. All you need is the handlebar mustache as well. But
all I have to do is just shave off and get a head start on November.
Yeah, Ross, I think me and you are doing the same, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're also going to do a movement from November, I'm going to call it as well. I'm going to try and do 500,000 steps over the case, over the month of November.
Nice one.
Jesus, $500,000.
Right,
How far is that in distance?
So it's like 80k a week, maybe.
He'll tell you once he finishes it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. So like,
you tend to like do stuff when you say you're doing it, really.
Yeah,
don't you? Yeah, Barrett giving me that UFC glove. But we'll move on to this weekend. Right. So Uriah Hall is taking on Anderson Silva. Ross, the background sort of is like Uriah Hall, when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, had one of the best knockouts we've ever seen. We were told this was the next Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva is now fighting for his last fight ever What are you expecting from this, and Ross?
Like Uriah Faber, or sorry, not Uriah Faber. Uriah Hall had like potential like no other when he was on the Ultimate Fighter. He really did look like he was going to be the next Anderson Silva. He has like such good like quick twitch muscle in him, and he looked like he was able to beat everyone. Chael Sonnen like also thought he was going to be able to beat everyone, but he seems to have so much self-doubt, and I think that's always his biggest issue, that like he never backed himself, if that makes sense. I think he's going in there against Anderson Silva. It's almost like, you know, the master versus the protege in this case. And I think Uriah Hall will win this fight. I think he'll probably get a TKO maybe in the second round. Just Anderson Silva's what, 43, 44? He's too old. He has too many miles on the clock. It would be nice for Silva to go off in the sunset, but I think he's got one dodgy win against Derek Brunson in the last 5 fights.
Yeah,
I'm just not feeling Anderson Silva getting a win here. But I would love to see a vintage Anderson Silva like front kick knockout to finish off his career.
Oh my God!
It's probably not going to happen.
He's like, give me another 10-year contract, I'm back.
I'm back.
Ian, what are you expecting this weekend from?
I would expect the same sort of thing. Like, you know, Silva has. I think he just still does it because he loves fighting itself. I don't think he actually goes in there with the intention of winning. I think he just goes in there because he wants a scrap. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I think at this stage as well, like he has lost. I know he's gone against some really good players, but like, you know, he has lost so many of his latest fights, and everyone likes seeing him because even though he's not as good, like of course he's not as good as he used to be, but he still fights fun. He still does crazy things, and there still is that sort of that magic about him where it's like, you know, this guy could still win. There's no reason why he couldn't do, like, you know, that insane elbow thing that he did where he came up from the bottom. Like this, he still would want to do something mad like that. Like, I think he goes in to sort of like anyone who's playing you know, playing five-a-side with their friends or something. They go in for they could score a goal, but they want to try and do like a bicycle kick or something instead, just to get a couple of laughs out of their mates. I think that's how Anderson Silva actually fights still, where he wants to do something crazy just to be like, you know, oh, did you see it?
Yeah, he just wants to perform, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah,
it's like a rock star more than a sports athlete at this stage.
Yeah, I think the MMA fighters are the modern day rock stars. Like, I think it's just the way it's blown up. It's these people are real rock stars. I'm gonna go for Uriah Hall as well. I just think Anderson Silva's a bit too long in the tooth, and he really knows what he has left in him. But then
anyone else put on that card, Basmo?
This card is actually all right, Ross. I'm not even messing. Like, Andre Tuccifidi's fighting Bryce Mitchell.
Bryce Mitchell get a sub there. He's an animal on the ground.
Yeah, then Kevin Holland's fighting again. That fella fights every week. He's probably in there more than Chimaev. Maurice Green's taking on Greg Hardy. Like, that's a battle of the big dogs. And then Bobby Green's trying to take that Kevin Holland crown of fighting nearly every week as well. Like, this is a very good Halloween card. I'm not even gonna lie.
It is, isn't it?
It is. But if you cannot wait till the UFC
for Saturday, Bellator's on Thursday.
Bellator is on
the middleweight matchup you've all been waiting for. Gegard Mousasi versus Lima, the welterweight champion. Basmo, are you excited or what?
Do you know what? I am very excited for this. Gegard Mousasi, our mate from
my
Bellator,
mate,
our mate from Bellator.
Well, he still has my belt.
He has actually got your belt. Ross, did he give you a shout to carry it in from this week or what?
What's called? I was meant to, but then COVID is after hitting, so I can't actually carry it in from anymore. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I think.
What's Pete think?
Pete's there in the background, and he's going, "Are you messing Mousasi this week?" But I do think Mousasi's going to get the job done. As we sort of spoke to everyone, they have said that Mousasi is like a bigger version of Lima, and once someone has the exact same skill set except it's slightly bigger, you expect them to get the job done. Size does matter when everything else is equal.
Yeah, Ian, what's your take on that?
I'm not actually much of a Bellator follower. I'll be perfectly honest with you. The way that I ended up following the UFC so much was based off of how we wouldn't watch it at Saturday nights, and then me and one of my mates who's moved back to Australia, so I'm gonna have to restart the new hobby. We would watch it early in the morning the next day, so we would we would download it, of course, illegally. It definitely wasn't an illegal thing that we downloaded. And then we would watch it and like make sure that we avoided all social media so we could watch it without like, you know, any sort of streaming issues or anything like that. And we would not know what the results were. So then that's how we would always do it. And while we would sort of follow some news from Bellator, because it wasn't that same sort of habit that we were in, like we wouldn't want to watch UFC followed by Bellator because it would just be too long of a day to do it. It would be like, you know, 5 hours or something. So we just never sort of had, yeah. And so we just never had the sort of the full investment to want to have that long of a watching series, because he also would be really into doing the NFL. And that always happens in and around a Monday and a Sunday as well. So then he would then hang around with my housemate who would be into that. I'd watch it from an arm's distance, but like then, so it was like a whole day of sport. So it would be too much to add more stuff in. So I'm not going to act like I'm knowledgeable and all this sort of thing. So I think I'll bow out of this one.
All right. I thought you were going to say a draw. But, no, but like, in fairness, to say, like, to piggyback off what you were just saying there, like myself and Ross obviously knows from doing MMA shows that a lot of people would be way more into the UFC than Bellator. Now the Irish audience has grown a lot more because there's a lot more Irish fighters on Bellator, but it seems like Bellator now has shaped up they're putting out the events. They're now putting the next 3 events on Thursday, so I think they're going to try and make it Bellator on a Thursday, so just so they can get more people in. They're not competing as much with the UFC.
Well, I think from a fan point of view, no one actually likes to see the two organizations directly competing against each other. Everyone wants to be able to get in as much content as they can from whatever promotion they can. So I do think I'm happy Bellator's on a Thursday. I'd probably rather it was on a Friday.
Yeah,
same Thursday will do.
I'd rather Friday. I'm not really too mad on the Thursday, but like as long as you don't have to pick one or the other, it's better. But a few people to look out for as well. Nick Newell, Iain, if you're not aware of Nick, he's actually fights with one hand. Yeah, he's missing a hand. He was born.
I am aware of that guy. I think I've seen footage of him before.
Yeah.
He's not just like handed that opportunity to fight like that because it's like a unique selling point, but he's actually like puts people down.
Yeah, he fought Justin Gaethje before.
Yeah, for the title, wasn't it?
Yeah, in World Series of Fighting, which is now PFL.
And he was also on Dana White's Contender Series as well. And then, Iain, are you a fan of wrestling?
Like WWE?
Yeah.
Like I would watch it in the sense that like it would be highly
nostalgia.
Entertaining. As a teenager or as a child, I loved it, and then when I started becoming a teenager, I started going the complete wrong way. Being, it's fake. I'm not watching it, lads. It's fake. And then when I got into my 20s, it's like, yeah, it's fake. It's fun though. It's really fun. That's not the intention. It's not about being like a real thing. It's about the sort of like, you know.
Yeah, but
like The Rock bursting in and being like, you know, you can't say that about me. Like, I'd love to go back and get into it, but I think like you kind of need to have friends who are into it too in order to sort of build up a reason to sort of see it with other people. So I would be far interested in doing that sort of thing, but at the moment there's not enough sort of my own mates to chat about it.
No, don't worry. I wasn't going to ask you who won a Hell in a Cell yesterday. I was just going to say, if you remember Jack Swagger, aka Jack Hager, he's actually fighting on this card as well. So like they're trying to make some waves in the mixed martial arts scene. But that's on Thursday for people to check it out. I think Vasasi's going to win it as well. But then this weekend as well, there is boxing. It's being headlined by Usyk. He's taking on Derek Chisora in the heavyweight division. Ross, Alexander Usyk, 17-0, moving up to the heavyweight division. 12 rounds. What do you expect in this? What do you expect?
I'm expecting Usyk to go out here and beat Chisora. I expect him to do it inside the distance. I think he's far more of an athlete than Chisora is. David Hayes done a good job of telling us how good Chisora looks in his training. It's the best training camp he's ever had. He's knocking people out left, right, and centre. But we've seen Usyk. He's a different animal. He is someone that everyone in the heavyweight division should be looking out for and fearful of. And he's my pick to get the job done.
You know, what about yourself?
Don't watch boxing.
You're off the boxing.
That's good enough. You're off the hook, man, so you can't get the call wrong.
Yeah, I'm going for Usyk. I'm going for Usyk as well. Just even the videos we've been putting out this week have been unreal. But Ross, you have to give an honorable mention before we sign off.
Yeah, my honourable mention is to Ian Ward down below. He is the Roman Reigns of Clontarf. There's a nice WWE reference for you. You know what I mean? So, on the Eno.
Yeah. Right. That sort of covers everything for the week. Bearing in mind that obviously the Champions League and the Six Nations is back this week. But Ian, I want to thank you very much for coming on again. For people that have watched the whole entire show through, we'll be putting out Ian's show, just everything that he's gone through. He's a great story. And Ian, we're going to link your website in the bio, and also we're going to pin your comment as the top comment to check out your content as well, because some big stuff is coming from yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have you back on at some stage, definitely pre-marathon anyway, to hype that up for you when you do run it. I hope that doesn't give away the next video, but you'll get to see all about it. So guys, thanks a million for watching. If you have watched this, make sure to check Ian's video out on Wednesday. If you're watching this on Wednesday, there's a video coming out today. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, and as always,
stay energized.